Now I'm working on what will become the basket that we can fill with food or whatever and lift up by a winch or pulley up into the treehouse deck. I'm using scraps of wood from the flooring. We had a few pieces left over. It's oak, so I'm using that just to keep things simple. And I'm trying to maximize the space inside the box without needing reinforcing on the corners. So I am trying to create a joint with a spline. So there's a groove here, and there's a piece of maple that I've cut that would fit in that. And hopefully all of this fits together. I don't have any kind of professional cabinet shop at my disposal, so this is just using what I have available, and hopefully things will fit together. Right now, the piece that I have cut for the spline is slightly too thick, so I'm just shaving a tiny bit off, making sure it's a good, a tight fit before I try to assemble. To get the spline a little thinner, I'm using a cabinet scraper, which is just a piece of metal with really sharp corners, and if you scrape it along the surface, it will shave a very thin piece off. It just gives you this paper thin shaving. The scrap wood box for hauling supplies into the treehouse is done. I think it turned out pretty well. Corners have these splines cut in to reinforce them. Handle. It's pretty heavy since the sides are all remnants of oak flooring, but hopefully we can set up our winch or pulley on the deck of the treehouse and use it to haul this up without too much work. This was just a first test of a handheld winch. Nothing was fully installed, but I wanted to get some idea of how well this would work. It was not entirely successful, but a good learning experience. I want to have something that is easy to use, and I'm concerned that a rope and a pulley might be more difficult, especially if you're not used to tying off a rope to a cleat or something like that. And if we have guests who are using this, I don't want something to happen where this box comes crashing onto the ground. Based on this test, I'm now thinking maybe it would be easiest if I created some kind of electric winch or purchase some electric winch. If anyone has any ideas, leave them in the comments. Well, I had thought that once we started the interior, I would just buckle down, keep working, get it done quickly. That hasn't been exactly how things have gone. I actually decided to interrupt progress on the interior to work on a few other loose ends. One of them is to deal with our big tarp that is covering the leftover wood from the treehouse. It's a bit of an eyesore. It's in the way, and some of that material is still usable, so we decided we would start working on a woodshed to use up some of that material. So that's what I've been actually doing for the last couple of weeks. We've been accumulating firewood. These are both standing dead trees. Here's some of the same trees and another few at-risk trees. So there will be plenty of firewood for the woodshed. The assembly for the woodshed roof is essentially the same as what we used for the treehouse. We had a leftover sheet of sheathing. On top of that, we used a leftover piece of peel and stick waterproof membrane. On top of that, we used a fibrous air gap layer that creates some drainage underneath the shingles. And on top of that, we put on the same cedar shingles as on the treehouse. And the woodshed is done. All of the materials except for the posts were left over, including the cedar shingles that we had a few bundles left from the treehouse. Nothing too fancy, but should keep the wood dry. And now back to the interior of the treehouse.